boys and girls, welcome back to another video. Today's topic, can you polish black plastic trim? If you saw my previous video where I was working on my van, the goal there was to restore the black trim that had been faded and become oxidized. Today, my test model is a Mercedes 2013 C-Class. B-pillars, they're shiny. So the goal today is to not restore the shine because it's got a healthy level of shine already. What I want to do is I want to remove, or what is called paint correction, which is removing the blemishes, the flaws, specifically what is called wash, scratch, or surface scratches. That's what I want to do because we have two panels here. It will be a natural 50-50 side-by-side comparison. I'm going to tape this side off. I'm going to deal with this side. I'll pull you back in so you can see the before and after results. Some guidelines. When it comes to either polishing black trim, because it comes in many variations, from plastic that's molded black, from plastic that's painted black, to metal that's molded black, to metal that's painted black. Then you have clear-coated plastic versus non-clear coated plastic. And by plastic, I mean whatever it's molded in or made of. This black could actually have a clear coating on it. I'm going to show you how to determine that at a starting point first. Here I have my selected choice in polish, ceramics by CSI. True waterborne technology. It's a polish, not a compound. So the simple way, one of the simple ways to test to see if there's clear coat is you take a section, typically an inconspicuous area, which this is not because I know I can fix it, and you rub and rub and rub and see if any black, and I will pan in to see if it focuses. So assuming this is in focus, you see the black showing up? That tells me this is non-clear coated. So I'm dealing with a either painted B-pillar made out of plastic, or it's molded in black dyed plastic. The reason I want to see if it has clear coat, because I know that clear coat, when they apply it, is a very thin layer. Once I burn through that or polish through it, that will change the color or the appearance of the underlying color coat. Therefore, I have to take more caution and be less aggressive, or at least take that as a factor into the working equation. So I've just assessed this is non-clear coated. That means, as a rule, I've got a little more material to work with and to polish with. With that said, let's get started. What I'm going to do is tape this off for two reasons. One, to keep them separate as I'm working on the one side so we can do a comparison. Secondly, it's a form of risk management or risk mitigation. So not all materials are created equal. Not all materials will respond the same when it comes to polishes, polishing pads, that type of stuff. So based on your skill level, your determination towards results or commitment towards results will determine at what level you decide to tape off. Now, a lot of you will become hasty and you just won't want to tape it off. I get it. We just want to cut to the chase. But I'm going to tape this off and separate this right panel from the left panel. So I want to deal with this specifically. I'm going to add a little more tape here for complete protection while I'm using the buffer. There we go. Here we have my go-to polish, Ceramic X polish. It is not a compound. It's true waterborne technology. What that means to you and me is that the carrier for the working ingredients is water. It doesn't mean it just has water in it. It means that the actual carrier is water. This allows us to work on hot surfaces in direct sunlight. The operating rule is this: you always start with the manufacturer's directions. That's where you start. But then you can finesse based on the situation. So the manufacturer suggests that you put polish right in the middle of the pad. But because this is a confined, tight area, I'm going to be working more around the edges of it. So I'm going to apply a little bit of polish around the edges of the polish pad itself and then finesse it from there. It does not require much. Now, I know many of you will not have access to a rotary buffer. This is my Milwaukee. It's cordless. I love it. I'm going to dial this down to 800. There's many of you that are very fearful of buffers. I get it. But once again, you remain in control. You choose the pad, you can choose the speed. It's got a slow start trigger, so you can even make adjustments there. You can apply light pressure, heavy pressure, the amount of working time you do. So there's so many moving parts to it. What I'm trying to illustrate is that you still remain in a lot of control despite the fear and anxiety that may be streaming through your blood as you think about doing this on your own car. My rule is this: you start easy and you work up from there. Wipe it off, check your results. Maybe at this point you want to dial it up. You want to go from 800 to, let's say, 1,000 RPMs. That's your call to make. Now, because the polish was constrained mostly to the middle, I had some around the edges. What I want to do is finesse down here, and this is why I taped this off, because this rubber gasket, I don't want to polish the rubber gasket, I want to polish the plastic trim piece. So I'm going to apply a little bit of polish, additional polish, just on the outside of the edges. Now this is where you can see the splatter. This is where experience comes in trying to maintain or control your splatter while still being effective. Sometimes there's this trade-off and you just have to figure out what the winning balance is. Sometimes you just can't avoid splatter and you just have to accept it. But with that said, is because this is waterborne technology, I know that the cleanup on this, let's say I get some residue in a seam or a crack or wherever, I know that it can easily be cleaned up with water, unlike traditional compounds and polishes that will dry to a cement hard substance that you almost have to chisel away. This is not that. So I can start slow, work in my polish, and then ramp it up. Now I know that if you have been around any of the forums, this is what's considered the redheaded stepchild in the industry. It is what produces many horror stories. It's kind of like the gun debate. Is it guns that kill, or is it the person holding the gun that kills? So do buffers kill? Do they burn paint? And by buffer I mean rotary polishers. Is that what kills, or is it really the inexperience of the polisher behind the polisher? So that's where I would argue that these are very useful, very effective, will cut to the chase, but yes, it requires a certain skill set. But once again, if you're teetering on the fence, you can't decide which to go, I default to a dual action polisher. Yes, you can still use these same techniques, same polishes. They even make wool pads now for dual action buffers. But in this case, because one of the things that rotary polishers are known for, and I'm setting this on the glass sunroof, FYI, not the paint. This is their latest pad. It looks like the Meguiar's maroon pad, I get it, but it's not. This is what's called a direct placement, meaning it's designed specifically for this backing plate. So there's no more guessing in alignment. You simply, that fast, you have direct alignment. You're good to go. Once again, as per manufacturer, I would place the polish in the middle of the pad, but because I'm finessing a tighter area, I'm going to put some polish around the edges. I'm going to try to finesse the trigger so that I get less sling, not more sling. The operating rule is this: to reduce or minimize hologramming, you want to maintain flat contact with your pad. But the trade-off with that is that you have less cutting ability. What we're trying to do is do the heavy lifting. So in order to speed up that process, we go up on what's called an edge. If you go up on an edge, as in you tilt the buffer up on the edge of the pad, it will create more friction. But it will also introduce swirl marks or holograms. That's why if you want to go up on an edge to do heavy lifting and cutting, you can do that. But then you finish off with a flat polished pad to essentially smooth it out and to remove those swirl marks, buffer trails, holograms. So that's what I did in this case. You also dial it down to a lower RPM when you do your very final pass of polishing. Right now it's at 800 RPMs, which is very slow. I just depressed the trigger all the way. Now it's at a full 800 RPMs, and I'm just working to remove the hologramming. At this point, once you removed your polish, you have desired results, you've checked your results, you simply go in with some wax. But before I get there, let's unmask it. What you might notice a few things. One, I've got some excess splatter going on. I also have some dust going on. A lot of people, especially beginners, they don't understand the nature of dust. Dust in most people's world is unwanted. I get it. But in this world, what it means is that this polish is not filled with fillers that make it non-dusting. So this doesn't dust any more than traditional compounds or other polishes that are truly effective. So while that, you may think like, oh, what a hassle, I don't want to clean up dust. It's like, okay, so you want to use a product that covers up with fillers your work so that what you see is not really what you're getting, all in the name of you don't want to clean up some dust, because I could easily bust out my blower or compressed air, blow this off, and I'm good to go. What I want to illustrate is the waterborne technology. So I can remove the excess compound, which it's not a compound. Did you catch me on that one, folks? It is a polish. I want to drive that home and see how easily I can actually clean this up in direct sunlight on very hot black trim. But let's say, for example, that you got some in an area that's unwanted. Because it is true waterborne technology, this is distilled water, but you can use regular tap water. It will clean up very easily. So I can come in here and I can clean up any residue that is left over. Very simply and easily with water. What I also want to add to that is this is not a moment where I'm trying to achieve absolute level 10 concourse level perfection. What I'm trying to do is more about preservation and enhancement. I want to enhance it so that there's less scratching visibly rather than take it to perfection, because this is a long-term car. It's my wife's car. Who knows how long she'll actually keep it? Generally, it's going to be anywhere from 4 to 8 years. So I want to retain as much material as possible, and that's where you have to weigh the balance. It's like, okay, whether it's your car or a customer's car, in the event that you're a detailer and you're trying to learn these tricks, it's like, okay, Johnny customer, what do you want? Do you want perfection, knowing that I am literally removing thickness to that material? So in order to achieve absolute perfection, I will have to polish this more, not less, in order to do that. The more I polish, the less material you will have for the long term. So that's where you put it in the customer's hands and say, okay, are you committed to perfection, or are you committed to that winning balance, which is a dramatic improvement, but retaining as much material as possible so that for the long term, it will last. So that's what I'm after today. At this point, I'm going to reach for my clean microfiber cloth. I'm going to reach for my CSI Q7 wax. Once again, waterborne technology. Water is the true carrier of the critical ingredients. I can use it in direct sunlight. It's a non-staining formulation, which means regardless if this is rubber, textured porous vinyl plastic, hard molded plastic, a rubber gasket, matters not. It will not stain any of those materials. In fact, it will actually benefit those materials. So now the next step in preservation is applying some form of protection. Use what you want. This is my winning balance. and I can actually finish the glass with it. As a rule, I don't spray it directly onto the glass. I'm going to wax whatever areas of the car I want. And then I'm going to take my cloth that's damp with wax, and I can finish the windows by buffing the windows with the wet side or damp side, flip it over and polish it, and now my windows are also done. So here we have a B-pillar that has been enhanced visually. I've removed the scratches, not all of them, lots of them. Since I've clarified the context of this moment, which is it's not about perfection, if you accept that abrasives will allow you to what I call scratch your way to perfection, scratch your way to success by putting or introducing deep scratches to remove blemishes and unwanted defects, you then reintroduce or you convert those deeper scratches into finer and finer and finer scratches. If you accept that methodology, which is a valid one, that's how you polish things to perfection, then you hopefully will accept that now this side is improved, this side is not. Really what I want to do illustrate is the fact of polishing in direct sunlight on hot material using the ceramics, types of black trim pieces on a car which come in so many configurations, from hard rubber, hard plastic, molded plastic, painted plastic, clear coated plastic, semi-rubber, semi-plastic parts, porous plastic. I mean, it just goes on and on and on. So a subject that seems very almost trivial and very simple, suddenly when you dig into your car and you start dissecting it, you realize, oh my gosh, there are so many types of materials here. How do I deal with this? So I'll add this to my playlist because I also used on this car another video where I cleaned the oxidation, and this is where I had my wife on camera, and we cleaned the oxidation off of this rubberized trim right here. But once again, and I showed you different ways that you can address that, whether it's a wax or a vinyl type of dressing. I prefer the wax. And that was, I don't know, it was probably about 3 weeks ago. And this is looking still really, really good. Okay, by all means, leave me any comments. Give it a thumbs up. Subscribe. If you want to get the alerts every time I upload a video, hit the bell icon and you'll be alerted every time I upload a new video. With that said, we will see you on the next video.